Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Haha, there we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this, the 14th of July, 2019. Sorry, gave it a second there. I really felt like I needed that last song to finish on its own right. It was making me chuckle. And so it took me a moment to start just so I could hear the rest of that, what was it, Keith Richards song that was entertaining. So, hey, everybody. Just starting things off, unfortunately for me and us, but good for him, Ken is not with us today, as he did succeed in getting to get greenlit to go to Prague, and so he is playing around in other countries without us. But that's all right. We have the show going for you today with me, solo, so hopefully we all have a good time. All right, with that said, if anyone out there would like to join in the show, as I always love to have participants not only in the chat, but also in the stream, feel free to share on VtWShowX, or VtWShows, VtW Shows on Skype. Just send me a message and I can bring you into the show if you'd like to discuss any of the topics I bring up today, or just to join in, hear your lovely voice, and have others out there to listen with us. So, welcome to the show. I see Copy in the chat today, so good afternoon for you. And as we kick things off, we'll go ahead and jump into, as I jump around and find out what did I do to my links. Wait, that's weird. There, go back into there. And go ahead and start with a little bit of
Dysfunctional Deviations.
I had a hiccup there where the Stream Deck went back to its home screen and it wasn't on my buttons that I chose. Oh well, we are good to go. Alright! So, kicking things off with Dysfunctional Deviations, and I guess it's only for me to say, what have I been up to this week? So, the first thing I start off with, I have my notes a little back and forth on order, but why not go here? For people who followed me on social media, you might have saw a tease of it, but I jokingly was commenting to the world that I have been in a bit of a binge state lately. I have been watching a lot of media in significantly, condensed time frames or just singular media, and one of the ones that I have caught myself with, I'd say this entire past week, is that, hey, how goes, what was that, 10 and 15? Or is it, I'm trying to think, Ionis? I'm trying to think how else I would pronounce that. But I kicked in and I've been watching a lot of YouTube lately, just clips going around the internet. And I don't know why, but what has captured my fancy this last week has been essentially the clips of all the various talent shows that exist out there on the web, out there on television, out there in the world. And so everything from, and I know I'm going to miss some, but the big ones like American Idol, X Factor, America's Got Talent. Nice. That works as all good ways to refer to you. Welcome, and be fun. Oh gosh, where are some other ones? And I found a new one from Britain that was All Together Now. That was the one I figured I would forget. And I have just realized in the worst way that apparently I am talent show trash. And I caught myself spending more time than I'd like to admit watching just clips and clips on YouTube of all the performances that have been going on over the last year or so from all these different shows. There's just something to me about watching people who are truly talented, and in many cases don't really know it, go onto a show where they're being judged and it's shown to the world and everyone out there, and seeing them succeed. That, I will admit, lightens my heart, makes me feel better about the world. And so the worst way I'd catch myself with YouTube open, watching it on my phone, on my television, on the computer, wherever it would be, and just going down that rabbit hole of hours at a time watching some of these things. And I think the worst iteration of it was during the week when I'm getting ready to go to bed before going to work the next day, finding myself going to bed at a dang reasonable hour, like I was being good, and then starting up one of these videos and finding myself still watching much too late in the evening afterwards, to the point where I was kind of like, yep, really need to go to bed. Really need to go to bed. This is bad. And I don't know how to really categorize it other than it just, like I said, makes me smile. And so I was surprised to myself how many times and how many of these things I've watched, to the point where I think I've seen every good performance that came out in the last year for all of the various talent shows out there, including some of the Got Talent and such and X Factors from around the world. Not just the American ones or the British ones, but like, what is it? The one that broadcasts in the Philippines, there's some in the Ukraine and Russia, all these different variations of these talent shows that I've seen versions of, and I'm trying to think. Admittedly, my favorites have to be all of the musical ones, people singing. I think that talent just goes beyond most and what more of the shows are about. There are some where just seeing kind of the talent acts that you'll get in America's Got Talent and such, and some of the other talent ones are also very entertaining, but I do gravitate to the music ones, singing and such. Maybe it's because I myself cannot sing, or at least not in a way that anybody would want to really hear for an extended time. I apologize in some senses to everyone who listens to the show whenever there's birthdays for me to call out, and I do my best, thanks to Octail for inspiring Marilyn Monroe version of Happy Birthday, that I know where my limits are, and it suffers me too, because after watching a bunch of these, and this happened to me, what was it, Friday night, I believe? I had watched a bunch. It was either Friday or Thursday or Friday, and was sitting there having a glass of wine, hanging out, kind of just enjoying things, and I turned on for a time that I haven't quite some time, some rock band, solely to do the microphone and to see if I'd be able to convince myself I could sing a bit. And yeah, again, it's one of those same things of, I will do rock band comfortably when I've been drinking heavily at a Game Fest event or something where I'm hosting people. It's not often I'll do it on my own, but I got in there. Whew, I'm rough. There's a part of me that wonders at my current age if I couldn't go to a vocal coach or something. Not so that I could ever be famous and competent at singing in a way that people would pay me, but just so I could feel like I can hold a tune that people wouldn't cringe at. Because watching back to the videos, I could see where I was like, nope, that's not my range. Ooh, shouldn't pick that artist ever again. And then a couple where I'm not terrible at. Some that I love the group enough, I've listened to the song enough that I can kind of do it. I throw that normally towards anything of The Cure, Robert Smith, my man. That I still try to do, but yeah, boy, I happy that I was basically alone as I did most of that. I say that, my cousin upstairs on his headphones, so he doesn't count. But oof, and I know that I get inspired whenever I throw a Game Fest and I drink enough that I don't care. But when I am pretty much sober and do it, it reminds me that it's like, oh, I wish I had better training. I wish I had opportunities to sing more when I was younger. I wouldn't feel as bad today. But yeah, I don't know. Is it just me? Do you guys like watch any of those talent shows and enjoy them and things like that? Because I really, yeah, like I said, warms the heart for me. Maybe it's just me. All right, enough of that. So other things I did this week that weren't primarily geeky is I not only binged a bunch of YouTube clips and videos, I also binged in one of these senses where I started out, and a lot of people have been watching lately. It's very popular, but essentially the series on Netflix, Stranger Things. And this is once where, oh, what? Copy? That doesn't count. Saying still alive, one time got a perfect score, never touched again. I chuckle, though, because in a way that's how I talk about my League of Legends rank play, is that, the one time in maybe Season 2 in League of Legends that I played through the seat matches to go and get set up for League of Legends, that I made it into Silver 5, I believe it was. The one time I played and got through, and it was above Ken for when he got ranked, because he got ranked into Bronze. That once I made Silver 5, the one time I got into it, I just never played again. So essentially I had a perfect Silver record in League of Legends one time, because I got into it, never touched it again to go up or down, just called it good. But no, I am curious if I'm not like the only person who binges those things. Anyhow, so Stranger Things is a series on Netflix that a lot of people have adored and has gotten huge popularity over the last couple of years, the last seasons that have come out, has, for those who don't know, it takes place in the time frame of the 80s, and it's been described often as kind of a combination of the Goonies and maybe Twilight Zone or something like that, because it does have creepy elements to it. And it's a series that myself, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed season 1 and 2 of Stranger Things. And so it's one that, and good to hear Kuro absolutely binging Stranger Things, because that's exactly what I'm about to discuss. In that, I'd been hearing the hype because season 3 just dropped, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I was seeing on social media just everywhere carrying on about people like Stranger Things, Stranger Things, Stranger Things, and somewhat trying to do the avoidance thing where thankfully most of my social media is pretty good about understanding spoilers and not wanting to ruin the things for everyone else, and at the same time are struggling heavily with their sheer excitement for how much they enjoyed what things they see. Happens across everything we watch. And I decided, I was like, I've been watching on and off all these different series. I've mentioned before, I've been watching a lot of Lucifer, which I've enjoyed, a lot of that. And thank you, Kuro, and I do plan to not spoil anything in 3. But that I've been watching Lucifer. I just found out the other day, because I finally paid attention through the credits and then just jumped through to the next episode, that it's actually produced by Vertigo, so it's a comic book series version of the character Lucifer. I didn't realize that, and I respect it more now, and I understand why I like it all that better, because I love what Vertigo does with historical, religious, and mythological characters. I just think they have a wonderful look at how they tell those stories. But anyhow, as I was going through, and again, Netflix shows and everything, Stranger Things came up, people were talking about it, and I just kind of kept going and saying, well, I've been watching Lucifer, I've been watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventures on Crunchyroll, along with Hunter x Hunter, and all of these different series that I have not finished, that are so many for me to still watch. And so I've been hesitant to start anything else. And it's something where finally, and I'll place myself, I'm pretty sure this happened Friday, where I was hanging out at the house. I would plan to go out for a run or something, but in Colorado it's been in the 90s almost every day. And so it just made me decide I didn't want to go do that to myself. And so I ended up hanging out around the house, and at some point taking a break from other activities, said, screw it, I'm going to turn this on, maybe catch the first episode or 2 of the new Stranger Things. And this was even more a challenge because my cousin, who's also very much in the binge cycle of things, had started watching it while I was still pretty focused on Lucifer, and I'm still watching Lucifer. And so he got excited about it enough that he kept wanting to talk to me. And so almost every time he would see me throughout the day or after work or something like that, he'd make a point of saying, so, have you watched the new Stranger Things yet? And initially he had watched maybe a half of it in the first sitting, and then he finished it up his second, so he watched it in like 2 days. And it was something where I just like, no. And I'll also admit that I talked to some friends about this last night, I have a natural aversion to getting too stuck on the hype train, and depending on the fandom and the people and how excited they get, it will often turn me off of something. And it's bad on my part in that I too often associate some things with people when I really shouldn't. Just because someone else is a fan of something, it doesn't make it any more theirs than anyone else's. But there's been times I've associated with just because they get so loud, so excited, so whatever about it, that it's difficult for me to disassociate the two. And so I've been turned off of some pretty darn good things just because the hype was so big. And so many people are excited and so much like, oh, you've got to see this. And I was just like, yeah, but that's you. And you're saying that. So maybe it's not something I want to jump on right now. And maybe it's just I don't want to feel like I have something to share or talk to them with because I don't really want to engage with them myself. So again, personal fault, something I need to work on. But all of that aside, as I was contrarian, right? It's not that I necessarily want to be, but there's just times where the hype turns me off. It just naturally does. And so even with my cousin watching it the way he did and having that excitement, I was like, all right, we usually enjoy the similar kind of thing, so I shouldn't have this kind of feel. But finally, I set it all aside, sat there and said, okay, this is a good opportunity. Sat down and turned it on. Started playing it. Again, got to partake more of the box of wine that had been left at my house after the last Game Fest. Really lovely brand. And just started watching. And it's great because just like the previous 2 seasons, with Stranger Things, or the break between 1 and 2 in the first 2 seasons, they did a similar kind of things where some time has passed since the last one, and so they're able to almost kind of say that, the big events that happened prior completed to some sense of conclusion, and people have had an opportunity since then to take a breath, to live their lives and go further into it. And so I love that they did the same kind of thing starting into 3, where you can almost take that breath as to, okay, all the craziness that has happened before is complete. They're now just living their lives again, and now that they've come back into it, we can get into whatever the new story that's going to present itself. Appreciated that. In doing so, they start with characters doing their own things, which I think one of the big things about Stranger Things, it's not just kind of the element of storytelling they do, but like any good story, a lot of it deals with the characters themselves, and the characters are just so either relatable or understandable, but are definitely feel very genuine in what they portray, and the actors do a solid job of it. And so I just kind of had a grin about so many of the activities that were going on with the characters when season 3 started. So got to get into it, kind of watched through. They did a really good job, in my opinion, of slowly introducing what the main plot line was going to be and providing some focus on certain characters. I appreciate, because again, the characters are so beloved, it's fun to see now that I'm able to kind of allow myself to enjoy the memes and things that come around almost all good popular activities and media. And so I'm able to see some of the memes and understand where they're coming from. And so I'm happy that I've let myself engage and start. I say engage and start. I started this thing, Friday afternoon? Kind of watching through. And it was, I think, stormy out a little bit later on in the day. So again, wasn't going to go out and run or do anything else outside. So I just kind of stayed in. I don't even remember, made up some random food I had in the house and just kept watching. And slowly found myself, because each episode's basically an hour long. And actually, I'm not far off that either when you say watching films just understand the memes. I have done things where I've either purposely, because I kind of was interested, went out and binged something just so that I could be ready as the memes started coming out so I didn't get stuck by it. And then turned around, and other things where, you're right, seeing enough of the memes or things that are being discussed, saying, fine, let me now go understand it. Although most often what I've had is things I've been totally away from and disconnected to that I had never watched, going out and finally seeing them later in life. That's probably one of the ways I discussed. It's something actually I talked about with Hunter x Hunter, that I didn't realize how old an anime series that is, that it came out, many, many moons ago. And in doing so, I had seen around cons and stuff so many different costumes and things that are fairly popular. I'd seen I recognize that costume. No idea what it's from, no idea the reference, but I've seen it around a lot. To then finally watch it and go, that's what you were doing. I gotcha. And, basically catch up and feel like I can now participate. And I do have to comment similar to Kuro on that one. Spaceballs is a classic. In fact, that reminds me, I need to have a whole Mel Brooks night at my house. I need to both do another throwback Monty Python night, where I haven't done one of those in years, as well as a Mel Brooks one, because there's such good comedy and such classics. But I'm assuming with the meme, I'm trying to think Spaceball memes. The ones I've seen are everything, what are the main ones? Either the time frame one, where it's no, it's now, right now, and they're looking through the time one. Or just, I would say, general ones about balls, right? That, these are, they're, I almost don't feel like I can say them on air here, but the way he called his crew, Dark Helmet, or whatever, called his crew and such. I don't think I'm allowed to say that on air. So yeah, it's so many classics. Anyhow, so I continued watching. Next episode leads into the next. I was very comfortable with, in Stranger Things 3, catching maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes, figuring, I know it's only 8, but I can power through a couple and get into it, feel like I'm now making progress. And I think part of it was I had an opportunity where I was maybe going to go run and hang out with some people that afternoon or evening. So I was just going to watch a couple into that, but then that kind of didn't come about. And so I just kept going. And somewhere around midnight, when I would say episode 5-ish, 6-ish, somewhere in there, I was kind of well, this has been my entire day. Maybe I should actually go to bed like an adult, because I was still maybe on the fence of whether I was going to go to the Ren Fair on Saturday. And so I was like, oh, I get to bed, I can get up and get everything, and then I could just save those last couple episodes till the next day. But then, odd thing happened. As the show progressed and I got to the end of that episode, they did such a good job of kind of leading up to a bit of a cliffhanger or just an acceleration in the overall plot that I felt like, oh no, things are happening, that I sat there going, well, okay, yeah, I can save the last couple episodes till tomorrow, but maybe I'll just start it, right? Maybe I'll just start it, and I'll just kind of see where that scene is going into, and that'll be enough, right? Yeah, that'll be fine. And so, of course, start the next episode, just kind of, thank goodness Netflix for having the auto next episode feature. 4 seconds, next episode starts. Yeah, okay, I'll wait. And as soon as it started going, that's a good point. It was ludicrous speed. That absolutely came from Spaceballs. And enough so that in my own workplace, with some software that was produced, there was a speed setting on something. And in that speed setting, because, of course, a bunch of geeky engineers, they created a slider bar that one of the speed things at the highest level was called ludicrous speed. And so that is as pervasive as, yes, Spaceballs did add that to all of our culture and things of that nature. So that's a good one. But I got into the next episode, started watching, it starts picking up, and man, if I didn't continue through basically the whole episode. Bad enough, though, because now it was past midnight and going on towards 1:30-ish in the morning or so. And I started getting the like, okay, I'm tired. I have been up all day. I didn't really sleep much the prior night because I had binged YouTube and other things. And so I was working off maybe 4 hours of sleep the prior night. And I go into it, and as I started playing it again, I was like, I realized I woke up, looked, and was kind of like, wait, I don't know what's going on here. And instead of doing the responsible thing of saying, I'm tired, I should probably just go to bed now. Oh no, I was intrigued enough by what the story had been doing that I last recalled that I then rewound the episode, and I will admit, almost back to the beginning before I saw something that I recognized again, and then let it play. And did that, unfortunately, like 2 or 3 times, essentially. In the sense that come 3:30-ish in the morning, I finally finished the 8th and final episode and really enjoyed the experience. And so after discussing and kind of letting you guys know in general what I did to myself to enjoy what it is that is Stranger Things and to be on the highlight or what we're going with being part of what's popular right now, but so worth, I admit that I basically binged it all in a single sitting. Not my first time, and as I discussed, not my proudest, but also I don't really feel that bad about it because it was good, darn good. But yeah, so I've now seen Stranger Things 3, and I'm caught up with everyone else. But so worth. And without spoiling plot or anything like that, but discussing some of the things that people are aware of in it, one of the cool things they do in Stranger Things as a whole, for anyone who hasn't even seen part of the series, is they're so great at I might have suffered that. That might have been what I did. Is that I love the world they present, and for me especially, and some others around that know us older, graybeard generation now, lived and grew up through and appreciate the 80s for what it was because I was there, and of an old enough age to experience almost what the characters in the show are doing. In fact, there were parts of it where I think the characters, if I officially look at it, are just a little bit younger than I am by a couple years, but not significantly, because through that time frame they're showing, I was essentially in middle school or going end of elementary, going into middle school, just before high school. So I'm actually really close to the same age as these characters. And the way they spent their days, other than I didn't unfortunately get the real good D&D lifestyle growing up. I only barely played any of the actual those kind of role-playing games. I played more tabletop and stuff. Going in and the way they were spending other times and how they focus in Season 3 of Stranger Things about the mall experience, where essentially, no real spoiler, but just a heads up that they do spend a lot of time in a mall. It is such the pinnacle of that 80s culture that they display. The food courts they had, the general stores they showed, and I got to give credit to the team that researches and does the set design, everything like that. The look of everything in it that matched the time frame was just so good. And the things they do with the media and things that the kids are interested to and what they reference at the time frame, just so wonderful. And absolutely, I think that statement is correct. I noticed the talk about the temple of the 80s consumerism culture, but it wasn't just consumerism culture. That's where because I grew up in San Diego out in California, and we had some massive malls. And the one I always remember was it North Glen or something like that? It was North something Mall, which was in the highlight centers portion of the mall was a 4-story tall mall. And most of the wings that went off of it were 2, but there were portions where it was 3 at a part and then back down to 2 as it spread out in multiple directions. This mall was massive. And it was down the road a little ways from where I grew up in San Diego. Enough so you couldn't bike there or anything like that. It was something you had to get a ride to. And I remember even then, right before we left, because my older brother was in the high school, just kind of going into it as I was still in San Diego, he worked at the mall, and I swear he worked at a pizza joint. I would love to actually, I wish Babs was on the stream right now, because I would love to share in that nostalgia, because he would have been, this is what's great about the characters. I was about the age of the main characters, the kids, during Stranger Things 3. My older brother was essentially the same age as, and I apologize for being horrible with names, the character that is essentially in season 2 well, gosh, how should I go? I should go back to season 1 so I don't spoil things for too many people. Kuro. But in season 1, the guy who's the popular kind of arse through the whole thing, in the season 3, he has a job at the mall, and it was almost, other than where he worked, I would love to hear my older brother's opinion of what that was like to work at the mall, especially in a food court. Because I never did that. You know, I did fast food, but it was like McDonald's down the street from other places, stuff like that, where my brother was part of that actual 80s mall culture, just like the people being described in that, where I was like the kids, where I went to the mall in the 80s to hang out, to wander around. It was the place to go. Oh, hey, there's Babs, now that I invoke his name. Well, and that's the question. So, Babs, have you also seen Stranger Things 3 now? Season 3? I'm doing my best not to spoil anything, but just talk about the world they produced and showed that, at least to me, screamed a lot of, yep, that was my life. Realizing, of course, that this one takes place not in California amongst a mega mall, but essentially out there in, a smaller town area, but still having that focal point of where everybody went. And that's the thing, it's not just commercialism, right? And consumerism. It was where we went to spend our time. I was an absolute mall rat. My buddies and I would go there and we could spend an entire day on a weekend just wandering the mall. Yeah, some of it was in stores, but gosh, were we shopping? No, we were kids. We didn't have any money. If we had anything on us, it was to maybe catch a movie, or it was maybe to go and buy like some candy somewhere, or food court food, and that kind of thing. That was like it. Shopping? No. It was middle school and stuff like that. I couldn't shop there. If I was really lucky, it might be enough money to get a CD or something like that. Thank you. Babs, thank you. Yes, Orange Julius was my jam. And the fact that they still exist makes me happy in so many ways. But there. See, the stuff that Babs is bringing up now, that is the absolute my remembering of what the culture was like back then, right? It was all of these stores together. It was where you went to be seen and to see. All the popular kids there, all the geeks were there. Everybody was at the mall. It was the social place to go for everything at the same kind of just, it didn't matter. Everybody from every walk of life was at the mall. I think the only thing that changed is there were the, well-to-do kids who actually were shopping, buying the nice clothes at the Gap and other places like that, where the rest of us were just going there to hang out with each other and see who was there. And so, gosh, it was such a good time. So, Babs, remind me, what was the name of the mall that you worked at? Because I'm remembering it, and I can see it, and I remember last time I was out in California, or maybe not last time, a couple of the times I've gone back to San Diego to visit friends to see people like Kendall and Aaron out there, we've actually driven by it and seen it again. and I have gone back into it once or twice to just kind of go and say, yes, the nostalgia. Northgate! Was it Northgate or Northbridge? I knew it was a North. I knew it was a North Mall, but I couldn't remember which one. It's killing me. I just remember it was massive and still in my head one of the biggest malls I remember hanging with. Granted, I was a child. And so with Stranger Things, just that they set so much of what's going on in the mall, to me, is such an authentic experience. I love that they went into additional detail of finding the right logos, right, and look and clothes and things like that are in there. They have stuff where that Elle goes and like gets to go shopping a bit, and the clothes they come up with, I look at it, I'm just like, yep, I remember that. I absolutely remember what those looked like, and the hair and just things people did. It was almost bizarre to me, in fact, because they had a scene in there that they showed at least one point jazzercise. Woo! That is throwback as heck for anyone that knows. And it wasn't just that they had a jazzercise studio in the mall that they show at one point, but the women that were in there and the look and the leotards and kind of the onesie things they were wearing was just such a, yep, that was a thing. That was real. Even actually, another one of the places that they show a bunch of is the pool. There's a community pool that they show some scenes in and such. And that reminded me of a lot of stuff. Granted, for our family growing up, we didn't go to like a community pool that everyone go to. We actually went to one at the military base down the way, which was wonderful because it was a massive Olympic-sized pool that was just great to go to. And so ours was a little different experience in that it was all basically just military families and people, so it wasn't a lot of my friends. But still that same kind of thing of a bunch of people going to the pool and hanging out, almost equally as much. Things like that. Just, I really feel like they did a good job. Okay, Babs, that's the thing, though. I think the reason we maybe missed some of that is because the characters they focused on, and this is in response to your talk about the credit card and stealing cards to go shopping, I don't think they focused on much of the more well-to-do or the kids that would do that, because the main cast I don't think would. And for what we saw in the mall, I think it was primarily focused on the main characters, and they are good in many ways that way, and so I don't know if they would. Well, and also, Kuro, to what you're saying about the 90s time frame, and actually you as well, Copy, I don't believe the mall culture really ever died completely. I just don't think it's not as much the focus. And it's that kind of piece where I still, maybe it's just conditioning from growing up in it, can catch myself. I can easily go spend a day at a mall even now, just to look at things. I used to do this when I was still in the military with one of my buddies, Shady, where we just to hang out would go to the mall still because we're of that age. We could just wander the mall, BS, people watch, maybe go shopping in a store or two since we're more financially stable now. But kind of just spend the day there as just a place to wander and focus. That was easy to be amongst and sit down, hang out, whatever you wanted to, which, gosh, I appreciated. And so there were a lot of things in what you'll see in Season 3 of Stranger Things that I appreciated, because I think what we got in the first 2 seasons, the way they showed nostalgia there were more, again, the D&D geek lifestyle from the time frame, some of the music and focus of those things. And just in general, I think kind of the town and society and that kind of thing was where a lot of the nostalgia came up. And it was more about what the main characters were doing then. But I think this matched equally well because as they're growing up, and same for me, I went from, oh gosh, this is too real. In my younger times, in that same kind of time frame, riding my bicycles and skateboards and roller skates and stuff like that around the neighborhoods with my friends, which they kind of did in Season 1 and 2. And then when I moved in to that higher middle school area and got more interested in girls and things like that, we absolutely hung out at the mall. And so it's just weird because maybe that's what I'm enjoying so much about Stranger Things, is it is another one of these throwback things that actually taps into my experience in life growing up. Even to the level of like the characters they show in it are very representative of some of the people I knew. So, it's so crazy. All right, I need to catch up on the chat because you guys have been thankfully quite good at participating. And you're right. It is possible that people could go too far with the nostalgia. I think, thankfully, Stranger Things has been keeping it real and using it as a great set piece to tell the story they're telling, where it's not so much tropey as it is a way of defining what the characters are doing in the story at the time, because their lives are being experienced in that time frame. I will jokingly say, with the time frame nostalgia as well, how they did spend some time with how do I put it? You can tell who helped pay the bills for this season of Stranger Things, because product placement was not even subtle. Where, in previous ones it's all about ego. This one has some other corporate logos and things out there that, when displayed, are displayed prominently. But with those classic logos, which is so good. Oh, also, let's see. Kuro, you talked about like the hair and stuff like that. I will say, looking, again, the looks of what people were doing and how they displayed themselves was just too real. Down to almost like the overly popped hair and curls and things like that, and just the outfits worn. It just, yep, that was accurate. Another piece that I was thinking again when I see, especially because part of my thing being a car guy, even that, the vehicles they had in, because darn it, the station wagon, so good, so accurate, so yep, that was it. Things like that, just enjoyed. And then Babs saying, watching a special on malls, saying that about 1/3 of the number of malls that used to exist is down. I absolutely believe it. I think what you've run into now is there are still malls, but they're, how do I put it? Because in Denver, we've got some decent-sized malls. One that kind of matches closer to, or the two that I'll bring up that are closer to what we see in like Stranger Things and what I remember mall culture, are Park Meadows Mall and Cherry Creek Mall. They're both very similar, and it's kind of got a Colorado twist in the sense that they're not for those people that don't have a little bit of resources behind them. That it is kind of a focus of, the stores carried in there are a little nicer. And we have a bunch of other malls around as well that are still out there and not bad. And I mean, it's like malls are. They're all fairly cookie cutter. You know what stores you're going to get in all of them. And they're situated strategically close enough to any major population base. We have the Aurora Mall as well, which is admittedly a little bit of a Aurora stand in that the stores you see in it are a little more sketchy, lower end than you would find at the other ones, where Cherry Creek is the opposite end, where it's the high end, where you can go in there and find Prada, find Bebe, all these kind of stores where you can go spend $800 on a t-shirt like an idiot. So they do have those as well, but man. And what else do we got in there? Let's see. Pueblo Mall, it's funny because that's also I don't know if it's still as active as it has been, but Pueblo Mall to me is kind of like what Buckingham was here in Aurora, where at its end stretch, but at least in Pueblo, I think it's because that's the mall, so it still exists. And then Copy, you're saying you're the oldest in the group and look the youngest. Oh gosh, that's actually hilarious. I can totally see how they strategized with that, saying that because you were the oldest but look the youngest, you basically got classified for the whole group. So with that in mind, did you sneak people into like rated R movies? Because I'm assuming that's probably the primary thing. It was either that or buying music that was 18 plus or something like that. That's where I would see it happen. And let's see, Babs, you're saying that the concept flirting with everyone working is spot on. Oh, I can imagine. Well, that was the thing, right? Because you could go to the mall and see those same people working it at all times. You could go to the food. That's why I say the food court was such a big one. And I kind of remember those discussions, just even being someone who would mall rat and saying like, oh man, did you see the girl over at Gap, right? Or something like that. The girl working the counter at Gap. Oh yeah, that's that one. And things like that, where it was a way to see and be seen. And now granted, we were young and didn't know what flirting was, really. But I can imagine at your age, Babs, where you were in high school, the prime time frame for when that was all happening, how it must have just been an experience. Such a great way of interaction amongst humanity, all being sandwiched together there. And when you talk about the parachute pants, yes, parachute pants. As I also talk about people who had like acid wash jeans and things like that, and still remembering how to do the proper fold and roll on your jeans. Not many people remember that. Oh gosh, so yes, and yeah, Leona's $800 for t-shirts. I've seriously seen it. When you're at a place financially where you don't know what to do with your money, I suppose that's your opportunity. Just spend more on something you could get for $3 elsewhere. And good. I'm glad that you confirmed that, Copy, about doing the 18 plus movies and music, because I figured that's what IDs were for in middle school and such. Babs also brings up the whole thing about the outfits, because that's something that you is probably one of the highlights in Stranger Things 3. The outfit that the characters have to wear that work the mall, especially the main ones. Oh, I remember things and outfits and kind of the uniforms for some of those places being a little out there. And I had this challenge as well when I watched the Bumblebee movie, and the main gal in there was working the corn dog stand at on the boardwalk. How bad her outfit was, and so seeing this when they're in Scoops Ahoy, how bad their outfits were, I was just kind of like, was that real? Do I not remember that? Because man, that looks awful, and you get to see it enough in the movie or in the season for Stranger Things that I constantly looked at it like, I can't remember it was that bad. Was it that bad? So again, this is where having my older brother on here to confirm is kind of nice to say, yeah, really was that bad. Well, not only, so it's funny because you're all saying that Babs about Izod. I saw a discussion, I don't know if it was preempted by this or some other thing that was doing nostalgia, where people also were talking about members only jackets, which to me is probably, if you bring up any name, for me, members only as a jacket was the pinnacle of the late 80s, early 90s time frame. It was just so ridiculous that was a brand that everyone was known to have, because I don't even know what made that popular. But at the same time, I remember getting my first members only jacket, and it was on a vacation trip through the mountains, and it was cold, and I got a green one. It was awesome. All right, so what else is there to say about Stranger Things 3? I did see some criticism some people had saying that they thought this was, for some of them, not the strongest season. I don't personally know what people are looking for themselves. I enjoyed it. I had a very good time with it. I thought it was interesting how they blended the good and bad elements for the plot, like basically good guys, bad guys parts of it. I enjoyed that they did some little bit of difference from the previous ones, yet still kept things kind of creepy. And another way that for people who've seen it or have gotten there in it, I think they did a great job playing off one of the biggest concerns in the 80s that they make as one of the primary things going on behind the scenes, where you're just like, what is going on with these people? And when they did that, I looked and said, yeah, during the 80s, that would absolutely be the group that would be the antagonist, that you just say, yeah, that was legit. And I thought the way they brought it into the story actually fit well. And so I was pretty happy with that. Gosh, yeah, it was so good. Let's see. Copy every September. I'd get 2 or 3 first-year high schoolers to run with me for help or comfort because they thought I was one of them. Was that just groups that would naturally pick up on you because of you looking the similar age to them, and you just turned into mall mama, being a representative for the mall, something like that? That's funny. All right, so I'm trying to think because I don't know how much further I can go into it without actually providing spoilers. I will say that I was happy that they still remained having creepy elements to it, and there were some legit moments where I was like, dang, that ain't cool. There were several moments of good nostalgia throughout, just things that were honest and real for the time. The one, and mostly because it was brought up to me in a way, and so I kind of want to share it in the same way, because you'll look for it and not know what it's going to be until it happens. But there were a lot of people who commented on my social media about, oh man, the never-ending story scene was just so good. And knowing that little bit, I was looking for it the whole time, and so when it happened, I was kind of like, oh, that was not what I expected. Huh. And yet made me smile a lot. So, yeah. All right. So I think that's about all I got for what I wanted to discuss for Stranger Things, because I do feel like otherwise I'm going to get into spoiler territory, and I want to give people the proper time frame to go consume it themselves. If nothing else, I could say that it's bingeable. So, I mean, you only really need a day. If you're smart, you'll probably give yourself 3 or 4, since they are basically hour-long episodes. So, take that as you will. But I've enjoyed it. if Stranger Things is something you've been watching, keep going. If it's something you haven't picked up yet for whatever reason, I recommend checking it out. I think you'll enjoy it. It's another one of those that if you have any kind of thoughts, happiness, joy towards the 80s, I think you'll enjoy it. And especially if you were able to live through any of it. It just hit me where it mattered in the sense of, yeah, that was so my time. And so that was good. I feel like, Babs, we need to get together at some point and just like nostalgia a bit, and you give me more of your perspective of that time frame. Because there was so much good, for as silly as that time was, that came out of it. All right, what else did I want to bring up here? So also, while that one was on the edge of geeky or not, this is more just me filling out what have I been doing. Last night, I actually did not yesterday go to the Ren Fair again because it was going to be warm, and I had things I hopefully was trying to get done around the house because I'm on a time crunch for a few things, but one of the things that I did do is last night I went out to help celebrate a friend's birthday, so a happy birthday to Cara. No expectation she'd ever listen to the show, so I'm not going to sing it for her, but in doing so, she set up an event for a bunch of us to get together to go have some drinks at a bar before heading out to see a cover band for Amy Winehouse. And, for those who know, British singer who had a very sultry, smoky, great voice, unfortunately died early in life at the age of 27 due to basically an alcohol overdose, is what they stated officially. And stop it. Honest, I'm not doing it. I'd say online shopping has killed them all, and big box stores have killed them all. Actually, I would say I wouldn't even blame the internet, Kuro, as I'm trying to transition away from this. I would say that it's actually big box stores killed the mall, because prior to that, the mall was and the mall in some stages killed off mom and pop shops, as well as big box stores continue to that trend of killing off mom and pop shops. In that it used to be prior to that you had to go travel to each individual store. And what the mall did was actually create a focal point where all of the stores were there, so you could go to one mass location to catch kind of all the shopping you want to do. And big box stores have basically taken that step further where why let there be discrete stores for you to go get all of your needs? Why not just come to our store where we have all of your needs? And that went that step further for killing any need for a mall, for mom and pop shops, things like that. When you have big box stores that have a little bit of everything, and because they are so prevalent and have such strong buying power, they're able to basically force the market so that they have the most competitive prices. It is a challenge as a consumer to not be drawn to that, because you can get what you want conveniently for probably a decent, if not the best price. And good throwback there, Ionis, about and it killed the video stars. That's a good throwback. Actually, I would say MTV killed the video star. Not only did it kill the radio star, it basically killed the video star itself when they went to live, the reality shows. And it's interesting because, Babs, there is that piece where people are now trying to break that mold again. Maybe we're just, as society, always trying to reinvent ourselves and find some fresh look at the world, which maybe is a throwback to the old things. We seem to catch that a lot right now. But there is the thing that... So malls might have taken the flavor out of the community from going down to your local whatever shop, or spending time, the 5 and dime, going to the soda shop, whatever that kind of thing might have been, which we didn't have a lot of growing up that I recall. Prior to the big malls, I used to go hang out at Alpha Beta and the Thrifties and kind of walk the mall there. But beyond that, it wasn't much different for me, the experience, because at least at the mall, it having its own culture of all the people you'd see, it was a place to kind of catch a bit of everything. And so I think it created its own culture that I was appreciative of, at least for my time frame growing up there. And especially not having a lot of mobility, where if I could get to the mall, I was golden. It was drop us off in the morning, mom come get us in the afternoon, right, or evening. It wasn't having to constantly move around or do something, because, like I said, I couldn't bike to that mall. I want to say it was Northfield. Anyhow. But at the same time, how do I want to put it? A joke came to mind about a different culture where, Mallrats is one thing. Heck, go watch the Mallrats movie. Little different. Stranger Things 3 does it more honestly. But compared to people of Walmart, very different look at the world. I didn't see nearly as many train wrecks at the mall, other than like the nerdy kids that were socially inept, or the whatever, which admittedly I was kind of a part of. Where you get to like people at Walmart where it's more, oh God, those people exist and they come out in public like that? So, yeah. Oh, gosh. So, that's a whole nother topic that's kind of interesting, Giannis. When you say, so it's time to depress everyone about their age by saying a few more weeks and all the people being able to vote will be born after 9/11. What do I want to say? That I've accepted, or I openly tell people I'm an old man. And I know this. Heck, I work in an environment where we get new 18 and 20-year-olds every couple weeks into where we work. And so I am reminded constantly because most of them, from the dates when it first got to people who were joining my workforce who were born after I was out of high school to now, because I've been working my environment so long, people who have been born after I got out of the military that are working amongst me. So I know I'm old. Let's see, other things in there. It says, I go to Walmart when I need a self-confidence boost. So it's really interesting to me, Kuro, is not all Walmart built the same, but I will say that any big box store like that you go to, and Walmart's probably the best lowest common denominator example, you can go to and I get a good slice of life of what that area of town is like. Because you can go to different Walmarts and get very different experiences. Because the main one I go down to, the mall that is closest to me, the outdoor mall, the Walmart there doesn't usually surprise me in a bad way. I usually see it and I'm like, yeah, no, everyone here is cool. At the same time, when I go to, there's some that are obvious. When I go down to the Walmart that's by the Aurora Mall, and there's still active police at the door when you go in, and you see the people and the clientele walking around there, I have some opinions. Equally, where I've been surprised is when I go to a nicer Walmart that's a bit further north, and I say nicer in the sense that it's one of the newer big super Walmarts, like massive thing. And the main part of the community I'm aware of that's a little north of it's very new. But when I walk around that Walmart and see the clientele in there, I'm actually kind of shocked because they're not as high social economically that I would have expected. And it really shows. It's one of those weird ones to me where the Walmart is nicer than the clientele in most cases, like by far. And that just blows my mind. And it's partly because the clientele has done things that I maybe am a little judgmental about. One example being in this Walmart, the parking lot has a lot of one-directional ways of going down the parking lot. It weaves back and forth with only a couple of the aisles that are two-directional. And every time I've been there, and actually the last time I was there, because it's a friend of mine's house is up near there, as I was going down this long aisle that's all one direction, 2 different cars came the wrong direction towards me. That I had to really seriously get to a side to let them pass, and I swear they looked like on their faces, they had no idea what they were doing. That they didn't realize they were going against the posted arrows and how it was designed to flow. And were just ignorantly driving through like do and looked at me like I was wrong for being in the middle of the lane trying to figure out where I was going to park. And it just boggled my thinking of how unaware these people were. So maybe I'm just a little judgmental on those kind of things, but it also added to my opinion of that big box store. But I do think if nothing else, they do give you a slice of life of what's around you. Just probably not the best slice. Maybe too real. All right. As I go in back and forth all these, let's see. Copy comes back in saying with her time at EB Games, the staff was all knowledgeable gamer girls, and gamers preferred that over the know-nothing staff at big box stores. I think in general that's always the case. One of the challenges I've had in most of my experiences is being the level of geek I am. It has been rare that I've gone to any place that I was amongst people that knew more than I did. Just because I tend to learn enough about whatever subject I'm interested in that I may not be an expert, but I'm pretty knowledgeable. And so, yeah. And that's funny, Kuro. You bring up software, etc. That was a classic software store. Remember when there were software stores, not just gaming stores or technology stores like Best Buy and such, when there were software stores? Because what was the one, Babs, you worked out back in the day out in California? I remember you worked at one, because when you brought up software, etc., it reminded me of when you worked at a software store, and I don't remember if it was that. I feel like the one you worked at started with a B or something like that. Oh, Egghead! Yeah! Oh, I remember Egghead software. I miss those days. So the funny part is the one place now that I've been surprised, and I have to give mad props and respects to, Because we all have those stories where you'd go to like a Best Buy or something and you just almost wave people away because they were trying to sell you something about a computer or something technological. And all of them were just salespeople. They had no idea what they were really hawking. And there were too many times I'd just be like, just stop. Just, do you want me to sell it to you? Because I know far more than you did. In fact, there were a lot of times where I was, and it's not just one or two times, I have probably been offered a job at a technology store a good dozen or more times because I would be shopping for something myself and hear an associate or someone that was working there trying to explain something to someone else in the store that was trying to buy stuff, and just be so unaware or not know enough about what they were trying to provide that I would pop in and say, well, actually, and kind of have a whole conversation with the person about whatever it was they were interested in, to the point where the people there, and usually if it was a manager type or something, would look at me and just go, holy cow, would you like a job? Because you really seem to know this stuff. And I was like, well, no, because y'all can't afford me. There's always a stages in life where it's like, I'm past that stage now. I've got a decent job. You can't afford me. And that's happened to me in a lot of different jobs. It's one of those things, right? You get knowledgeable enough about something, I can talk it all day, and it's so weird. Anyhow, but yeah, I loved when there were old software stores like that. And so I have to give, what, boxes of games? Here's the scary part, and I was talking to some other friends about this. I don't think it was on the show last week. But last time I was in big box stores, in Walmart or something like that, I was walking through and they were doing a reformat of their electronics area. And I had difficulty finding the software, which I already knew, like PC software at those stores has minimized down to a portion of a single side of one set of shelves. But it's gone further. I couldn't find the console games. I think we're in this weird stage, and I'd love if people, what your thoughts are on about it as the geek gamer side of us. I think online distribution, now that it's hit the console level as big as it has, and how even Microsoft has discussed their next console possibly not having a optical drive and stuff, that basically big box stores are going to stop carrying any kind of games, any kind of digital games at all. Like, we're still not to the stage where they've gotten rid of DVDs. Heck, we still have CDs. But I feel like we're getting real close, because those sections also seem to be starting to minimize. Maybe it was just these one or two stores that I went to, but it was really caught my eye that I walked through where I would normally just peruse it real quick, and I couldn't find even essentially the Xbox and PlayStation section for a bit. It took me a minute before I looked and saw it and was like, oh snap, there it is. It's crazy, Babs. I don't know. Well, let me think. Mostly because you think of your big box stores like your Walmarts, Targets, stuff like that, Kmart's or whatever, if those still exist. And I think you get so much of like the clothing mixed with kind of those everyday need things, household items, stuff like that. Because even most of those don't have appliances. So where do you go for appliances? It almost feels like you can only go to the Sears and Best Buys of the world to get appliances unless you're ordering them online. And I think that's the thing they still have, is because most of those stores, because they're such big items, people may not be actually fully comfortable buying them online yet. It's still like people are still in the mix, I think, for buying televisions online and getting them delivered. I think there's still a feeling of a bit of concern there. As we get bigger and bigger into what we're willing to purchase online, sight unseen, or just via reviews, and not have that in-store experience. Huh. Well, and you say that, so yeah, Kuro, you're right. So it's funny, you say hardware stores. The big hardware stores, the Lowe's and the Home Depots of the world, have appliances, as do the Best Buys. The Ace Hardwares and stuff like that don't, but they're the smaller mom-pop type ones that are also struggling now. Those are good questions. I think we're in a time frame where we're starting to see the way digital distribution has happened, the way that essentially Amazon, almost single-handedly, has changed distribution of things, that we are going to see it directly impact all of the classic brick-and-mortar stores. And we've seen it happening, but I think we're at a cusp of almost watching where we're going to see it directly hit them, where you'll notice it when you go to those stores, what's no longer available. And I think part of that is getting away from what do you need to touch and feel before you buy. Clothing I can see, because I think it's really important a lot of times to try on clothing, although, Babs, you help us find there's the opportunity of things like, where you can now get custom measured things sent to you online, do your measurements, heck, take a picture of yourself and have it scan you, and then order a custom tailored shirt that kind of thing. We have distribution of clothing in some of those ways that I think is still infancy, so you still have that for the big box stores. And I agree with what you're saying, Crow, in a lot of ways, where it's saying that Best Buy equals Amazon showroom. That I also have gone to a lot of big box stores or other kind of physical brick and mortar stores locally to do my browsing. Heck, one of the big ones that I think is a challenge is going to like camera stores, Mike's or whatever kind of camera stores, to look, touch, feel, get hands on, because I think that's important with a lot of different type of things you buy. And then I'm going to go online and do all the shopping to find the best deals and things like that before I actually order, especially with big ticket items. Oh man, I do think we're in that kind of time frame where we're going to start seeing some of these fundamental changes in how people are doing their shopping. And I think that's absolutely going to happen. On that note, I was going to... maybe I'll come back from the break and I'll finish up my story about Amy Winehouse and call it there, and then we'll transition into a few things a little more geeky and maybe continue this conversation because it's just me, and so I'm going off the rails. Although, with that, I will remind, as we get ready to go into about a 3.5 minute break here, I found a new list of OC Remix songs that I had downloaded at some time but hadn't put in the rest of the mix, so I'm going to play some more from there, and this one being a Pokemon one. But continue the conversation. If you would like to join in on the conversation, I'm happy to bring you on air, especially if you have a nice clean mic ready to go. But you can jump on and friend us on Skype for VTW shows on Skype, and just send me a message there and we can bring you on and you can see your beautiful face, hear your voice, and join in the conversation that way. If not, I would love to hear what things you have been up to that have been geeky and unique this week. What's going on with your lives? We love to interact with you guys as fans of the show. Email in to showx@vtwproductions.com and I will bring it up and check on what you guys have been up to. So those are your challenges out there as we go to a quick break here, so I can refill the water, get ready to go and stuff like that, to come back and continue with another hour of the show. So with that, you're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com, and we'll be back after this break.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
How copy? Because Geek Squad, that's how. Oh, yeah, so as I will transition here as best I can, but also talking since we go ahead, we're already talking a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek Cred, level up!
Yeah, so two sides. Copy, there's nothing like big box store in the sense of technology like Best Buy with the Geek Squad of people who don't know what the heck they're talking about, who have to go through their binder of how they troubleshoot situations to make you feel like you know more than everyone in the store, let alone the room. That is so bad. I remember that, actually. I remember when you were doing that. I actually remember talking to you about that. So that's so dumb. But going back to what you were saying, Kuro, and I have to give mad props, non-sponsored, although I should probably talk to him about trying to sponsor events in this show and other things. Micro Center, heck, maybe I should have done a show. You know what, Kuro? We should have last week on Sunday. We should have done the show from Micro Center for the launch of the Ryzen, right? That's what we should have done. After, 2020 for past vision. But I give credit to Micro Center because when I first started going there were a lot of people working there that I did know more than. But then I ran into quite a few that actually knew some stuff. And I had to stop and give respect because they do actually have people that are knowledgeable, as well as they continue to take over the market for what is good quality, real geek tech. The few times I'd gone to Fry's and stuff and been truly impressed by the scope of a massive electronics store like that. But then to come back and go to Micro Center and say, oh, Fry's is just fluff and space. It's not really that great. Micro Center is all of the good stuff from Fry's in one place without the massive bloat of all the other nonsense. Micro Center is so good. Just good. I give them credit all the time. Whenever you hear me talk about technology and talk about the candy store, that is me talking about the local Denver Micro Center because it is so good. All right. God, there's so many times, so many discussions about those things, just knowledge in general. What was I going to go into? So I did want to say the happy birthday to Cara and talk that little piece because that was me out last night. And we went to a club I haven't been to, the Orpheum Theater or something like that, a little small area. And in it, this band was playing that did covers of Amy Winehouse, who... really talented gal, tons of great songs of what she did in her short time frame in the spotlight. And one of those that's just kind of like, man, what a wasted talent. If only she had stayed around a bit longer, I can imagine she would have done amazing things. But this band was fun. Really talented singers. Just got out there and played a part. For me, it was a lot of fun because I got to just go out and dance. And like I do so often, I got to kind of section off a little section of the floor for myself and just do my own thing. And the type of music they're playing meant I just had to play. And kind of, as I always do, dance on my own. But that was a lot of fun. Ended up staying out far too late in the evening, again. This time just because birthday gal had a decent amount of drinks. I think was feeling pretty good. And so as others were letting go of the evening, one of the gentlemen and I were the two last with her. And so we kind of kept track. And then instead of sending her on a lift drove her home since it was only a little ways the other direction. But there was a moment where we were sitting outside downtown Denver eating street meat because there's a little hot dog gyro whatever stand there that was actually quite lovely. Realizing that she had imbued well and was enjoying her 30th birthday, got to the point of calling out to those around, just kind of like, it's my 30th and stuff like that. Or it was just, yep, time to go. But then so we kind of hung out until she felt a little better, walked back and such, so I didn't get back home till, another 3:34 in the morning. I just don't think I slept this weekend in general. I think that's kind of what happened. Oh well, I survived, or I'm alive now for the moment. So that's all I wanted to talk about the non-geek. Geek-wise, probably keep it somewhat short because I actually had some articles I wanted to bring up to get your guys' opinions on. I did move my VR back upstairs. A friend of mine, Sir Spencer, has acquired his Oculus Quest. So he got his standalone Oculus and had been telling me just little bits about how much he's enjoying the VR experience. He's able to play it in an open space in his basement, a big mat space workout gym type area, and so having the Quest is very good for him since he doesn't have a computer close by and he's able to now play all over. And the experience that he's focused on that he wanted me to be part of is the big screen experience. Essentially allows you to either view your desktop or things like that, or in this case, in many cases, watch a movie or something in a virtual theater or some kind of large space. And one of the things you can do is you can log in with multiple people to virtually be sitting next to each other to watch the show. His idea is that because we used to hang out here when he still lived in the area and watch anime together, that we could now virtually watch some anime together. And so I got things set up for that. In doing so, because previously I'd left my VR downstairs for the next time I was going to throw a Game Fest, so I hadn't really had it at my desk for a while. I actually went out and started looking at some of my VR titles again to start doing some of those experiences. I won't say there was anything really of note other than I continue to play Beat Saber what little bit I can, although this space is significantly reduced from the basement, so I have to keep things a little up close. Man, that is such a good game, and they continue to update it, and thankfully both they and the mod community continue to go hardcore with it. And in that, they have added to Beat Saber now a campaign mode, which I was kind of surprised with. It used to be just play the main songs. Now they have a campaign where you can go in there and they progress you through some of the songs from a lighter difficulty to more difficult versions of it, as well as they add different conditions to how you play, little bits of how well you have to do, whether you can fail, things like that. And so that's all very interesting. Babs, I have played a little bit with Google Earth VR, although it's been a bit. I remember feeling almost like Godzilla walking through some of the cities in downtown Denver and other places of the world. It's interesting. It's not amazing because a lot of the street view stuff like that that's on Google Earth is still not, the way it's projected in the VR isn't quite to that highest of quality, so you're not really there, but it gives you some sense of depth, position, and things like that, which is really cool. So some of the virtual tours you can take is really neat. But yeah, so I've been doing some of that. The other main thing that I had just on my Geek Cred level things, although I should bring up Pokemon Go as well. Sorry, I hadn't been playing it as much recently, kind of bouncing between various games on mobile. But I started playing it again just recently because I hadn't gone on a raid or anything for quite some time. I usually just play it very minorly on the way to or from work. If I have enough time and I see there's a gym that I could take real quick, there's a couple on my route that I'll park real quick, fight, and then go so I can get coins and stuff throughout the day. But the one that got me out again is because just recently Mewtwo was reintroduced into the raids as an armored version of Mewtwo. So I was like, dang it, it looks cool. So I ended up calling up some of the people I know who play, and we ran around and did those. Good question, Babs, and I'll talk about that. And then there's actually a raid this afternoon after the show that I have a temptation to go be a part of because the same group was like, hey, they're doing this special EX raid. I forget which Pokemon's for. You should come do this. And so I might see if I can get into that in time. I have other places I have to go real quick ahead or for a bit, so I don't know if I'll be able to participate in that or not today. But I was happy I got to go out and play it. So, Babs, you brought up the new Harry Potter game. So, Wizard's World, or was it Wizard's World Reunite? I have it on my phone. I did acquire it. And what do I have to say about it? I will say that, yeah, Wizards Unite is, because it's from Niantic as well, same company that does Pokemon Go, working off the Harry Potter franchise and storylines and such, so that's fine, whatever. At the same time, I will say it, to me, is a cheap knockoff, if that's how I could best argue it. It is, what do I want to say? Actually, Babs, Detective Pikachu's Mewtwo isn't that far off, isn't bad. There's more to it. I got to see that when I went up to Anime North with Copy and her sister Chibi. We went and saw Detective Pokemon the first day we were in town, and I think we all enjoyed it a lot. It's a fun movie. But the Wizards Unite game takes that same I get to run around the world AR type experience as you would as Pokemon Go and back further in a way to Ingress, the first game they did. But to me, the problem is, while it's trying to take nostalgia to the Harry Potter world, it's just, I would say, a glossy veneer over what maybe is still Ingress in a way for the gameplay. It's boring. It's not a good game. In fact, it was one of the things I wasn't surprised at all, where a week later I started seeing people's discussions on social media saying, so, who's still playing Wizards Unite? Because most people are kind of like, I'm not. There's no reason to play. They did some things in the game that just took away from where the Pokemon one, having known concepts and the whole catch-em-all idea where you can go into the world and find things that are meaningful. Oh, look at that Pokemon I don't have, or I need to get 10 of those so I can accomplish this thing or whatever. It has a much more, in tune reason or feel for being out in the world and moving around and adventuring and looking for things. Wizards Unite, it's all kind of contrived. It doesn't well define or explain what it is you're trying to accomplish in the game. In Pokemon, you want to get them all, right? That's where it started. And then it went into battles and stuff like that. It all were very straightforward and made sense. Wizards Unite, I don't know the why behind the game. Initially, you're given the storyline of, hey, the world of magic's been thrown askew because someone has created this big magical event where it's released all of these things into the world, and we need to capture them before the Muggles find out that magic is real. And so we need you to go and capture and bring all these errant magical things back in the world, capture and bring them back. Okay. But there's no real press there. Like, why should I care about one event over another, or one thing over another? Why should I matter what house I'm in, or any of those? It just doesn't matter. And as well as because they don't define the gameplay well, you're stuck going around kind of fumbling with what are you doing, and you're running out of spell magic, and so you're kind of limited to how many events you can do in a day, and you have to go basically spin Pokestops, go hit events areas to get more magical ability, but there's only some of those places, basically what would be gyms. The other places where it's like you would normally spin stops are instead these little events where you get components to make either potions, or I think really mostly just potions, which also don't feel like they have a real purpose in the world. There's just, it didn't really congeal into something that was an experience that, one, I felt compelled to go do on my own. There was no reason to go explore and find new areas and such like that. Because at least with Pokemon, you could go find different Pokemon spawning in different areas, and you'd have different gyms and stuff like that, which was kind of neat. In Wizards Unite, there's nothing really unique about any of the locations you'd go to, so it doesn't matter. The separation of houses doesn't matter. There's no real capturing of things and stuff like that. There's some events that you can do where you battle against stronger and stronger AI things, and so having more people there to do essentially raids is a concept, but again, it just never comes together. And so while I think the excitement people had jumping into the game of, I love Harry Potter and the world of Harry Potter, so I want there to be more games in there, just didn't work. It to me just fell flat and was bleh. So I got nothing out of it. I'm so over and done with it. Just like, I don't care. I'm curious about anyone else out there. Did anyone else pick up Wizard Unite? I did it for the sake of, I still haven't installed for the sake of, I have a ton of friends on there, but I got no reason to open it any part of the day. I will more likely go back to Pokemon Go every day. In fact, the only reason I slowed down on playing Pokemon Go is because I may have washed my Pokemon Go Plus in the wash in my pocket, and it doesn't work anymore. And so I kind of need a new one of those, because I loved having that. I would wear it all the time, spinning stops on the go. And I really look forward to more integration. I'd love if they integrated better with smartwatches and other things, and whatever they're going to do with the sleep version of, play Pokemon Go when you're asleep, things like that. I still have desire there. However, and this actually gives me a decent opportunity to do a bit of a transition as I go from the Geek Cred side, since I haven't heard your guys' Geek Cred, jump into as well a little bit of
technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
I do like how it's trying, the Wizarding app. Can you be the very best like no one ever was? Can you get sorted like everyone else was? Again, there's just nothing unique in the game. Even the visuals, like, man. Actually, my biggest gripe with the Wizards Unite game, where I saw they had potential, is when you're doing your little events to capture the errant items, they have a concept of spell casting. But it's very much cookie cutter in the sense that against this fire type, you cast this water spell, right? Whatever. Even that wouldn't bother me so much if it wasn't that you have zero choice in the game. You don't get to choose anything. It dictates to you what you need to do. You just have to play along. And so in all of those encounters where it chooses for you the spell you need to cast to defeat whatever it is you're fighting, and their casting mechanics, okay, it is trace the line on the screen to match like the sigil or symbol or whatever of the casting, and try to be as accurate and fast as you can, some of them more difficult than others, to cast that spell, and each spell tends to have a unique style of what you're going to draw. But you don't get to choose what spell you cast. So that's just, it again makes no sense. Like, if they had at least used it in somewhere where it taught you the kind of spell you were casting because of that gesture, and maybe they'll do this later, but I haven't seen anything like it, so that in your bigger battles, instead of having to choose or whatever, if you could just cast spells by doing the right symbol on the screen because now you've trained it in the regular play, that'd be kind of cool to me. But the biggest problem I had is being a game of magic and spells and wonder like that, you as a participant get no choice. And it's terrible. In Pokemon Go, at least when I grab a gym or do something like that, I can either allow the app to suggest for me a team to battle with of Pokemon, or I can choose based on what I know of the game or my favorite characters or whoever I'm leveling or whatever to do that. Babs, that's coming up next, and that's the exact segue I was going into. So, as I kicked off the thing for technology news and more, so we get into the Geekoscope here, as we are talking about these kind of games, one of the more interesting ones that just got announced is from Microsoft. And it's AR in the Minecraft world. What? And so, thank you for doing the transition for me, Babs. As in the news, Minecraft Earth gameplay looks adorable. And I'll admit I got most of these articles from Kotaku. But it says Minecraft Earth, an augmented reality mobile game based on a hugely popular series, is coming to a closed beta later this summer. To tide you over, Mojang released a short video yesterday on that shows off some gameplay. It's incredibly charming. So far, all we've seen of Minecraft Earth is admittedly impressive augmented reality, and people occlusion, where players build structures in real life which they can then walk around in. And apparently this is something that was seen at E3. So, I am actually going to play the trailer for you so you guys can take a look. I won't make you go out and try to find it yourselves. So let me see if I can click the right button here. Oh, wait. I was going to do that, but I think that one is in the wrong screen. I wanted to do... So I'm showing it, but I thought I had the full screen version. Doo-ka-doo-ka-doo. That one, main desktop. Ah, shucks. All right, let me try this again. Boom. If I come to here and I do here, no, not that one. Here, that one. All right. I was going to try to do it a different way. So, Minecraft Earth. Here is the demo they have for it, essentially. And go away. This, and so, oh, I don't need CC on that. So basically, and this is what excited me initially when I heard augmented reality, and it turns up in Mao, that looks a lot like a Pokemon Go game, essentially. Where they show it as augmented reality in the world, but with that Minecraft veneer over the whole thing. How cool is that? And it's something where I was actually pretty surprised when they showed this video, where similar kind of things, you can go and acquire items in the world, so things that you'd recognize like pigs and sheep and things like that that you tap on, and they have little names for it of being, what, tap-all something? I forget what they call it. They're basically tap items that you get. And they can change into different styles, things like that, but you open up, anything you open up and create stuff, they all basically get collected and put into your own collection. And in that collection, then, what's really cool, and this is where they're going a step beyond what other of these kind of mobile games have done, is that they're not just letting you collect to do these random events or something in the world. This is Minecraft. What is the thing that most of us associate Minecraft with? For me, I would say it's creation. So, augmented reality. And we've seen this when they showed it initially for some of the stuff they were doing with their Microsoft... oh, shoot, I forget the name of their augmented reality glasses. The HoloLens. Stuff like that, where they're showing some of this in HoloLens. But using your app, showing the technology of being able to map a surface and therefore attach something to the surface, they're saying you'll be able to yourself and with friends you invite create things with the items you bring in. And so the stuff you collect in the world, you will be able to turn around and build a Minecraft scene with it, essentially. Which, how cool is that? Not only will they let you do that, and they show that and they actually say make sure you bring friends you want in because people can take and give. Once you've created something, you can then place it in the real world life size. How cool is that? Now with your augmented reality, you can now walk through it in the real world. And so you're able to kind of experience it right there. So, like, how cool is that? That just seems super slick. So, yes, Babs, I'm actually really curious, enough so that when I was researching this article today to get ready for the show, I went and signed up for the beta right away. And you can too. All you have to do is go to, was it Minecraft? Where's the link? Oh, I just had it sign up. It is minecraft.net/earth. You go there, and if you have, and this is where, again, Microsoft, Mojang being acquired by Microsoft, if you have a Microsoft Live account, or you can create one for free, you can sign up for the beta. It does ask you to be 18 plus, I think just because it is a beta like that, but feel free to check that out. I'm very curious. It's a different look, and I have friends like John and Beck who do huge things in Minecraft where they're trying to recreate worlds and such like that. But being able to do something and then hold it up in such a way to see it in the world around you, I hope they maybe take it a step further, that whatever you create, I would love if they allowed you to import it into like a VR app as well that kind of matches with the AR, so I could then go look on my Oculus and walk through it truly immersed, or some way, because it's one thing, you'll throw it in the world, you'll have to like hold your phone up to walk through it, of course, but just a way if they could take you even that step further of letting you see the world and look around it. I'm really curious. They also talk about in that demo real quick where things you do like fire burns, right? And water flows like you'd expect it to and things like that. So I think there's a ton of potential for whatever it is they create in this app. And I like it because it's taking augmented reality, I think, a step further than what many games have done with the level of persistence, where I've seen it done with Pokemon and things like that, where something kind of exists in the world, even with the Wizards Unite app stuff that Niantic's done. But that's it. It's kind of just a placeholder in the world, and it's kind of fun to maybe take some pictures of things in the real world. But it doesn't really matter what's in the world around you. It doesn't affect it. This one, it's not saying that the world's going to affect it either, but at least putting something out there in a big space that's like, I can now walk through this virtual space I had as though it's life-size. That, to me, seems pretty cool. And Minecraft just being a creative app, I think there'll be a ton of possibility for it. So I am actually kind of excited for it. I'm curious to see what they're going to do. So thank you, Babs, for bringing that one up. Yes, that is absolutely something I had been watching. All right, so a few other articles I have in here, and feel free to jump in as I go. Let's see. Nope, that's not the one. Yeah, this. So, okay, I kind of wanted to give a, not shout out, but a console my, what do I want to say? I will give some credit. Yeah, I'll say this one. You're imagining things all up and around your house now, Babs. The nephews, your kids going out and augmenting your house with Minecraft stuff. I want to throw, this came out in Kotaku as well as a retro article, but talking about something that I guess I give some credit where due. I tend to hate often on some of the console things that have happened throughout the years and how much influence console had over maybe PC. The PCMR in me tends to bubble up more than most things, that I'm very much PC Master Race. But one of the articles that Kotaku put out there said that after playing GoldenEye on the N64, Valve changed Half-Life. So, like I said, credit where due. It says, today developers have a huge variety of ways to create and manage enemy AI. However, back in the 90s, it was much more difficult to create sophisticated enemy AI. It was even harder to do so on the N64 due to limited power and resources. But Rare, the company that did GoldenEye, pulled it off and did such a great job that after playing GoldenEye, developers at Valve actually changed the then unreleased Half-Life and its AI. There's an in-depth video that came out of this. Kotaku talks about saying on the YouTube channel AI in Games, they have a new video that covers AI enemies and NPCs in GoldenEye, how they actually work, and how Rare was able to make this happen on such a system as the N64 for a very complex AI. One of the things that came out about it was that it was such an impressive job building it. They, instead of just building the AI and throwing it in the world, what they said they did is they actually built the AI and then built the world around the AI, specific so that people's interactions would take part involving the AI. So it was very specific design choices they made to highlight what they had done with the AI. And that kind of different focus of the way they gamed it is part of what made GoldenEye such a memorable game for players who enjoyed it on the N64. With that, they said that another developer of the game, David Doak, later explained in an interview that in 1998 at a video game trade show in the UK, he met folks from Valve. They told Doak that after playing GoldenEye, they felt forced to, quote, redo a bunch of stuff on Half-Life. And they're saying that they believe this most likely references GoldenEye's AI system because Half-Life employs a very similar system for its baddies and NPCs. And so if you'd like, feel free to check out the article. It'll be, I have to remember to do the show notes and stuff, but I'll also post it in to the chat here, so you feel free to link it off there and check the video to see more about that AI. I just thought that was really a neat story. And one of those times when I will admit that maybe a game or something developed on a console had long-lasting impact on something that is a PC game, in this case Half-Life, which is admittedly one of the most famous, like, full single-player experiences for an FPS in computer gaming, so I'll give them credit. Oh, along with that, there's a quick article I have in here about Halo mods. In general, I love mods. Mods are a great thing. The one I actually wanted to go into a little more close or depth or show, and it's not, I don't think there's a lot of discussion on this, other than I'd be kind of curious what other people out there think, if they find it as entertaining as I do. But it says, what World of Warcraft would look like if running in the Unreal Engine 4. So this isn't the first one of these kind of discussions or articles I brought up. I think I've talked about it with Tomb Raider. I talked about it with Legend of Zelda and a couple other games that are out there. In fact, I went so far back as I think I remember seeing it done with Sonic or something back in the day, where essentially different modders out in the world have taken some of the gameplay elements from some of their favorite IPs, some of their favorite games, and using what is essentially free to use, because it only costs if you actually publish something and it makes money, the Unreal 4 engine, which is arguably one of the more advanced engines available today and really have worked on making it accessible for people to get in there, have been recreating some of their favorite scenes, worlds, characters, stuff like that in the Unreal Engine. So this is an example where in the past I've done it with those other games. In fact, the Tomb Raider one plays very well. And on this one, they did it with one of our longest standing and what was in kind of one of the harkens back to why this show even exists, with World of Warcraft. And so this is, they actually have a 12-minute video here showing it. I will show some of the video, probably jump forward and back and kind of discuss it in general. But where they went in and created some of your favorite worlds from World of Warcraft in Unreal Engine 4. And so if you haven't seen this, you should really check out how quality this mod was, and what they've been doing. I think in the article it says some of the main areas they were looking at were, of course, Goldshire, for those on our server on Mimgard would probably know another names, to, what were some of the Elwyn Forest, and for me one of the big ones towards the end is Durotar and such. And so for those, and yes, this is where I'm looking at Hando, I'm looking at Copy, I'm looking at all you guys who've played WoW with me and such. When you look at some of the video, the places they show, and I see elements where actually it looks very Skyrim to me, but I can recognize the Unreal Engine 4 and how it kind of shows off in the world. But like this, their classic farm, right? And just the farmhouse and things like that. To me, I love seeing games and assets that I've loved over time and seeing it recreated with modern engines. It's similar, and this is where I was going to talk about the Halo one. And it goes into the remakes we've been seeing, what's going to happen with Final Fantasy VII, stuff like that. When you take such wonderful, lovely stories that have existed in the past and update them just to show that, technology continues to improve, so why not take advantage of it and see what it might look like? It's kind of exciting to me. You see some of these same places and go, holy cow. And especially in this example, what he's showing is that changing in time over the same location you've seen. And so going from, a sunny environment to a dark environment, so cool. And actually, Babs, I have something to talk about that one too. And, oh wait, let's see. Did you see the deep fakes? No, I haven't seen those. Oh, you'll have to find me a link, Babs. The deep fakes for Rock as Scorpion King, I'm kind of curious. Deep fakes is a whole nother discussion out there. But yeah, so Copy and Handle, you should see these areas and just go I remember the heck out of these. I have so much hope and desire in the world that while it could never be official in the true sense of it, but apparently this person's been working on this mod, this overall thing since 2015. Could never sell it. Blizzard's never going to give the rights to something like this. But if there was a way to get this out there in the world so more of us could experience it and actually add some gameplay elements into it, it'd be so good. Even if it was just as a fan art demo of, right? I love seeing some of these areas, especially Sunny-wise, when you see towns and areas that you absolutely remember, some of the towers and things like that. It's so neat to see the sunset and the gorgeous background and stuff like that, where we already know the worlds and the environment and it's got a bunch of fun to it. But you just see how good these things could look. And I feel like you could almost tell a more compelling story in this world. Because, I mean, the cartoony works, but it's so cartoony that in some ways, modern-wise, it almost takes away when you see the big over-the-top hands and stuff like that of orcs and things. I don't know. I was really happy with it. And again, some of these scenes and locations, when you look at it and say, oh, I know that place, it's just with such a pretty veneer on it. So nice. Like for me, and I'll skip ahead, I really liked getting out into, for me, being a hoardie for the most part, I much more appreciated seeing kind of these open areas, especially from what would have been, Western Kalendor? And Durotar and all that, so especially coming through over towards the end of this one, although, hey, lighthouse in the distance. These ones here, when you start looking at the way up to Ogremar and such, oh my gosh! Look how pretty! How cool is that? And you start getting into the modern lighting and things like that, it's just so neat for me, and so I love modders. Modders are the best thing in existence because they're able to take what developers do a great job with and they create the basis for, which is so nice, to then take it into this, right? These worlds that are, but what if it could be more? You know, we saw that where companies that do support it, like Bethesda, and let people mod the heck out of it. People have made versions of Skyrim and such, and Oblivion and such, that are so, when you mod the heck out of them, are so pretty. Even the developers weren't sure how far you could push it, and so I love when they do that. So yeah, this is one of those things that just impressed the heck out of me when I saw it, and would like to see more of these kind of things. I don't know if that's something that speaks to you guys as much, but I am really impressed whenever I see people go into the time, especially out of something like that that is a labor of love, and do something more with it. To me, that's just so awesome. So shout out to all the modders out there and just bringing things like that to make me happy. So that's so good. Oh, okay. So Babs is mentioning this about what it is when they did a deep fake with The Rock from Scorpion King. So essentially what it looks like this is a company that has gone out and re-edited the movie Scorpion King using new technology. And this is not the official production house or anything like that, where they're saying that arguably, and I'd love to see this done with some other movies now that I think about bad CG, where they note and show like how bad some effects have been over time. And basically laughably so. This goes almost to like Superman's lip kind of thing. And so they're focusing on essentially the CG, and they showed a bunch of the examples in this of what was bad. All right, I will let you guys share in the joy of this. And the link's in there is from Babs, so you can feel free to jump in and watch more of it. But they're showing the technology of how they're going in there, analyzing scenes to then adjust, clean up, and make better these scenes. Because this is what they're really focusing on, is when he comes out of this thing in the Scorpion King, this kind of weirdly CGI'd version of The Rock, and how they're going to jump ahead and using, as I'm kind of sneaking through to kind of get to the end goal here, as they're analyzing a bunch of actual video of The Rock to create the deep fake. Because that's really what they do, right? Is they go through and they pull out actual images of a person, analyze and create their own new 3D model of it, to then reanimate, usually mapping it based on someone else. In this case, it's kind of interesting because they're going to be using The Rock to reanimate The Rock. So that's kind of neat. Almost cheating. But they're taking scenes where they're actually using his real character and real person to then map it back over what was bad CGI. Oh, that looks interesting. So yeah, the top one being what was bad and the bottom one being what they ended up with. Significantly better. That's interesting. Like, it makes you almost wonder when the first time they did the CGI for it, how they didn't do a better job. I guess really this is another one of those signs of the improvements in technology and what we're getting to today, especially today, right? Because what AI has allowed for filling in the blanks and figuring out how to easily create full scenes, what we're seeing with deepfakes, is also what's allowing things like Disney and their full technology to do things like young Sam Jackson when going through the Captain Marvel movie, and what we'll continue to see in the future Star Wars movies when we deal with whatever for Princess Leia and other characters where they don't exist anymore, it's using this newer technology to improve it that much. That's really impressive. Thank you, Babs, for sharing that. I had not seen anything on it. That's really cool. See, guys, this is what an interactive show's about. It's you guys getting to help me see things I didn't even know existed. And so that's really cool. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. What else do we have in here? I still have time. I'll probably fit at least these last two in here. Speaking of geeks and the internet and the things we do, have you guys seen the story about... Oh, gosh. Do you know who Belle Delphine is? If so, you'll know where I'm getting to. The Gamer Girl Bathwater Saga. Have you guys heard of this? Not one of, I would say, gamers' proudest moments. But, hey, if you're an entrepreneur and know what you're doing, do what you do. So, the UK-based internet personality, Belle Delphi, went out there and started advertising. So her background, this again coming from Kotaku, is that she is famous for doing viral stunts and Patreon-supported not-safe-for-work content. And at one point announced on her Instagram back on July 1st that she would be selling, quote, her bathwater to fans via her online store for $30 a jar. It's one of those things that take it as you will, be it creepy, memey, whatever you want to call it. Something that exists, but there were a ton of things in popularity and memeing that came out of this. And where I say it's kind of a shine on things, in a way, it's almost like, why? And it's similar, right? Copy. It's in one of those things that, thank you, Ionis, for that one. That is about as punny as you could get. I appreciate that one. This is so jarring. Why? Anyhow, but yes, when we have a culture where people can buy panties out of a vending machine, this should probably surprise no one. Essentially saying that she would bathe in her water, jar it, and sell it to all of her, quote, thirsty fans. The idea behind it, and I had actually had an opportunity to look at some of the things that she provided, is that she is what most people would consider the ultimate of internet trolls. She makes her whole existence by playing off the kind of tropes and things that people would expect in the darker sides of gamer girl fandom, and in doing so is probably most famous for being the most clickbaity personality out there. That's probably the best way I could say that. She's very clickbaity, and so in that, and she's a cute enough gal, whatever. Always dresses in little costumes that are very gamer themed. All that kind of stuff, very skimpily clad, things like that. And essentially what she does is she will put out there titles for videos that she's posting that sound like they would be the most inappropriate thing ever, but turn out to essentially be exactly what they state, but in a somewhat mundane way. And so it's not that she's actually getting undressed on her channel, really, so much as she is presenting things that are silly, I guess. But the challenge I have is that it is absolutely pulling this fandom and group, and she got more famous because it became somewhat viral out there, where people were jokingly saying things where they were selling for, quote, as much as $10,000 a jar. Now, the interesting thing that's come out of this is that there were a lot of negative memes and stuff that came out, people trying to troll it on top of the troll, saying that they were getting sexually transmitted diseases from the water, that it wasn't actually any of her in the water, that it was just jars of water and that was it. But what was interesting, all those things that came out prior to or just after the announcement of it got debunked fairly quick by herself, because essentially those all came out and she commented that she has not actually shipped any of them at the time that those things came out, so none of that could be true. But at the same time has continued to press about it, saying, I'm doing this and it's for her fans, and so the people who are participating, I guess by all means, I shouldn't really care. I think one of my bigger challenges is, much like any of the fandoms and fun things that we as geeks get into, my concern is more that the way this got picked up by mass media, or by, getting viral in the way that it did, I think perpetuates one of the lesser, not as true aspects of who gamers are, and just kind of makes it easier for a general population who don't consider themselves gamers to box all of us into this weird little side niche thing. It's similar to the arguments I have whenever I talk to people about who I know in the furry community and such. How too many people, when they hear the term furry, instantly consider it to be some sexually charged thing, when it really is not. And it's more that what people hear about is a sub-piece of a culture that really exists in all cultures. And so that's probably my biggest challenge, is that it's, I think, too much of a misrepresentation or something that people have jumped on that just isn't real, isn't accurate. And that bugs me a little bit. And I see that still in media that it perpetuates, right? That geeks and gamers to a certain level have to be this certain weird little boxed way of existence that is sensationalized, or almost, it's that negative in my way stereotype. It's not like the positive stereotype that we also own of being geeks, right? Geek and nerd is not a bad term anymore, thankfully. But there's still aspects that get portrayed out there that I think could be better. And that's part of my challenge. And the jokes there is like, well, I could participate in this too, and maybe I should start selling some of my, what do I want to say, aspects of my life so that people could partake in me. I don't know how to say that. So in a way, I don't care. I think my challenge is more just how it memed out and how people picked it up, that unfortunately I think gives a lesser view of us as gamers. Yeah, that's how I want to put it. All right. Now on to real news in the last part of the show, and we'll see if this goes to any depth. It's going to really be dependent on what you guys think. So, one of the other recent announcements that just came out, and I want to say this targets more Babs and Copy, for knowing who I have on here, is that Nintendo has just announced the new Nintendo Switch Lite, and that it will be released on September 20th. All right, everybody. What have you heard about the Switch Lite? So, if you haven't, at least here's some information for you from Kotaku. And this is just because these are articles based on what I've seen all around. This says the Nintendo Switch Lite is a smaller handheld only portable that will be released this fall. It is being described as a Nintendo Switch for those who just want to play on the go. Comes in 3 colors and is priced at $199.99 US, which is basically $100 cheaper than the full-on Switch. It's saying that it's also slightly smaller, and where the original one measures at 4 inches high and 9.4 inches long, the Lite will be 3.6 inches high and 8.2 inches long. And let's see. No, you're not getting any of the Froshin. Stop it. Although, I do, when I groom myself, feel like I get enough hair to make a voodoo doll of myself almost daily. That could be a thing. Stop it. So it says the Lite's touchscreen is also slightly smaller at 5.5 inches compared to the regular 6.2 on the Switch. The Lite, however, does have a longer battery life and a proper D-pad. This is something I know Tom Bad Guy brought up as being exciting for him. And it says, size is not the only difference, though. Unlike the regular Switch, it will not feature detachable Joy-Cons or a kickstand, and it won't support TV mode. It also, because of that, doesn't come with a dock. So, in general, I'm throwing it out there as the idea of, does this make sense to you? As you feel like this is something that people are going to get all over, that is going to really enjoy having? And so the interesting thing is, right, there's a lot of potential. I think the biggest thing in the industry that everyone's kind of agreeing upon, this is Nintendo saying, guess what? The 3DS is dead. And I personally agree with that assessment. That bringing out the Lite is stating we are not producing another dedicated handheld like the 3DS. Instead, it is all going to be this new concept, this new form factor that is the Switch. Although it's also interesting because I've heard some feedback from it saying, so wait, a Switch Lite that doesn't let you use the dock or do the TV thing, so is it really a Switch? What are you switching? Anyhow. Some of the positives I've heard about this in general have been that, one, it means that you're going to have more, like, it solves in many ways one of the biggest complaints about the Switch, and that is the anemic battery life that the full-on version has, that really playing it as a portable is a stretch. Now, okay, I say it doesn't solve. When I'm looking at the actual battery specs, it adds all of about a half hour to the normal time, so bigger battery doesn't really do us much. Interesting, so maybe not. That doesn't really give us much. Yeah, I did see a meme copy that came out along that about the light switch where they showed a box art of what would be the Switch Lite, and it was just a picture of a light switch. But it is going to be lighter and smaller, and so closer to being an actual pocketable machine. And the discussion is, does the $100 price difference really make a difference? Do you think that it's going to perhaps allow more parents to feel comfortable about buying the Switch for their kids just to give them a dedicated handheld? What's the benefits? Why this versus the actual full-on Switch? Is it really going to make an impact? One of the challenges there is without the Joy-Cons built in, doing multiplayer games seems like it's going to be significantly more of a challenge. Now, it does sound like you'll still be able to do things where it brings in the where you can still wirelessly connect like a Pro controller and stuff like that. But without the detachable Joy-Cons, you don't have a built-in thing for multiplayer. And so it shows that you don't get HD rumble in it, and you don't get any of the IR motion camera with it. And I'm trying to think, because games like Mario Kart and stuff like that, where you can use the Joy-Con as the controller and kind of do that motion with it, because they're attached now, you might be able to still do that with the whole thing, like the old Wii U remote or the Wii U controller on that. So does it make sense, right? One of the discussions I was having to talk about this, I forget where, might have been on Discord or such, but about the possibility that at least if they were to take full advantage of, although I've learned later that it's really bad, that the way they implemented it is it does still have USB-C for charging. I feel like they could have almost gotten around this in a way or made it an optional upgrade for people if they had truly implemented the USB-C standard correctly, which they don't. It's why on the Switch right now they recommend you only use certain chargers, because they don't have the spec wired as is the spec. It uses the connection, but it doesn't allow for the full power selection that the USB-C standard says you should have. So it's not actually USB-C compliant in the standard. That if they had done it to standard, they could have plugged the new Switch Lite into the USB-C with the option of outputting video via it. And if they had done that, they could have still allowed you to do a TV mode via a dongle or something like that, and that could have given them some options where maybe you buy in at $199, and then if you really want, you buy this other dongle. It's not a dock, but it could still allow you to do those things like on the fly where you go to a hotel and maybe just plug in a USB-C cable and directly attach it to a screen. I saw options there. A lot of people disagreed with me because they said, well, then just get the regular Switch. But I was basically trying to make a case for the Lite. Like, why would you get that versus anything else? Because another challenge to the Switch Lite is that not only does it now have the built-in Joy-Cons, which when you bring that up, Babs, about a challenge of Joy-Cons not being up to par with actual quality controller, maybe because it's a built-in device and not trying to add in the wireless part of it and the motion control part of it, maybe that'll be able to make them a more robust built-in controller, which in the past they've been good at. All the old handhelds were really good control schemes where my original Game Boy still plays wonderfully. So maybe they'll be able to solve that, having a true D-pad versus buttons on every side, things like that, and so maybe they won't have drift and make better actual thumbsticks on it. We'll see. But the other piece there is there are games on the Switch Lite that won't play. Because there are some games on the Switch that are only for the big screen mode. And it's not something I was aware of because I don't own a Switch. But it's something that people who start buying a Switch Lite, you'll have to pay attention to which games it supports. Because while they were compatible in the sense that they have the same essentially power between and should be able to play any mobile-capable Switch game, any Switch games that are designed for the big screen experience and thus the dock and play it on a larger screen will not play on the Switch Lite. I feel like that is a bit of a concern. I know for me personally, this does not give me something as an option that will make me run out to the stores and buy a Switch Lite. I don't care. I don't have a Switch, and so I don't see the draw. But I am curious some of your opinions and whether you think this makes sense for Nintendo. Is it going to go better places? I don't know. I'm still struggling with it as a whole. Other than the idea that it's going to press not having a 3DS in the future, I just don't get it. Yeah, no, exactly. I noticed my challenge is because I realized in my lifestyle, the reason I don't have a Switch now, do not mobile game, really. If I do, it's a quick experience on my phone that when I have had the opportunity, because I have a old PS for the Vita, or whatever, that the older PS handheld, the PSP, and I realized I barely played it, and that was a wonderfully strong machine that I picked up when I had more time mobile, when I was still in the Navy and such. I don't, and maybe it's because I'm so comfortable being a PC master race and always having my PC at home, and when I am on the go, I'm doing things, and so I rarely have time to just sit and game. I keep saying that the Switch to me would only make sense for when I fly. And my answer to that right now when I'm flying is to pretty much just download a bunch of shows and binge on a flight, whatever shows I need to watch. And I've seen others that I've been with who I got to watch one time going out when we went to DragonCon, I think, with Hyde next to me in the plane. Her playing Splatoon 2, I think the entire flight out there was actually kind of compelling to watch her go through the levels and the puzzling. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Again, almost pushing where it would kind of be neat. Or with, I could see Breath of the Wild or something like that, having an in-depth gaming experience on it. But my problem is I would only play that when traveling. If I'm home, I'm going to be on my PC. You know, I'm only on the phone when I'm on the toilet kind of thing, or something like that, or where it's so it's just weird to me. For me, that's personally, I don't have the use case for it. Oh, that's another thing I heard from some people talked about. Maybe the compelling argument for the Switch Lite. Yeah, exactly, Copy. Just in most cases, get the original Switch. But I saw one that was maybe one of the more compelling arguments for the Switch Lite. For parents who want to get their kid a somewhat handicapped version of the Switch, because maybe they actively don't want their kids to have a dock and don't want their kids plugging in their Switch to their television, that they don't want to have to fight their kids for TV time. And so here's your Switch. It's a Switch Lite. You play that on your own and be quiet. We're on the TV doing what we do. I did hear that as one somewhat compelling argument. Not only is it cheaper, but now there's no excuse for me to have to go spend the extra $100, $200 in accessories that most people already get with the regular Switch when you start upgrading with a Pro Controller and other set of Joy-Cons and things like that. Now with the Switch Lite, it's like, here, I bought it for you. Here's a couple games. You're done. That's all you need. Maybe at the most you end up with a Pro Controller at some point. So I was going to say that's probably the one other argument I've heard that might make sense. Beyond that, I got nothing. So it's interesting because I think for our audience, I'm not hearing a lot of chatter from anybody that really has a reason to want it. That's actually why I was hoping, Babs, you might have an opinion, but I know your kids already have a regular Switch. And the same thing for you, Copy. You already have a Switch. And so for like myself, for Ionis and stuff like that, there's maybe just not even a market, at least for us. I guess, and so the other challenge I have, or what's interesting to me, and maybe Babs, you're right, maybe this is preemptive, is the sense that do they have competition right now? From the announcement of the Switch and still arguably back into the 3DS time and space, I don't think Nintendo has had competition in the handheld market. I'm really stretching here. I want to say ever. A part of me really wants to say ever. I think I'm trying to think of any time when they were close to. I mean, did the Atari Lynx ever really give them challenge? Did the Game Gear ever give them challenge? I mean, there were some of those things that got the first color instances and stuff like that, but they were bricks and terrible to run with. Same thing when Sony came out with the PSP. It was great. It was powerful. It was a good system, but they all made challenges that didn't make it. So yeah, I think, Babs, you're right. The only real threat is the mobile phone. And for the most part, those games are a different experience because unless you put controllers Bluetooth to your phone, you're kind of limited in what games and experience you can have on a mobile device. And so, is it really competition? I don't know. I don't get it. So I'm just, that's kind of where I'm stuck. And so, the same thing, right, Copy? You've invested in your Switch. You already got your stuff. Anyhow, that's a discussion to kind of end things up and throw it out there for everyone to maybe think about. On that, it is time for me to end the show. Heads up, I'm going to make the effort of at least bringing the right technology so I can, but my expectation is I will be so engrossed with other things that I won't be available next week's show, but Ken should be back from his gallivanting off in other countries. I instead am getting ready for and will be traveling out to San Diego this Wednesday to attend my first ever San Diego Comic-Con. And so I am expecting to be totally immersed in that, and come Sunday, I won't be surprised if, even though I have the rig with me and my hotel has wireless, that I doubt I will take my time away from the convention to do the show. This is my first Comic-Con. I am already feeling a bit whelmed by it, almost to the state of overwhelmed. I am still trying to figure out what costumes I'm taking and things like that. I have ideas, but gosh, I wish I had better comic-themed costumes. And so I'm just going to bring my old favorites, and I may even go as a civilian 1 or 2 days just to give myself some like breathing room. And I know a few other people going out there, and I'm not doing like the buy all the exclusives. I am not going to go try to get the dumpster fire, just so people know, because there's apparently only like 60 of them, and there are 100,000 plus people who go to Comic-Con, so we'll see. I mean, my goal is to see if I can find Adam Savage. That's in his whatever hidden costume for each year. That's like my goal. Anything past that's pretty much bonus. With that said, though, before I leave, feel free to email into the show, showx@vtwproductions.com, or message me direct to let me know, is there anything you see maybe happening, being announced, or what could come up this Comic-Con that you would like me to go try to pay attention to? I may try to hit some of the big Hall H events, because that's one of the things that I look at other events, like Dragon Con, some of these other cons where you get some of the famous people in the room. But I'm keep trying to let myself remember this is Comic-Con. This is San Diego Comic-Con. This is where the industry comes out and actually shows trailers for new movies and things like that. And so I'm really curious, like what might not be announced. I would love to see a Black Adam announcement and actually have The Rock there or something, right? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like for me, I would love to see them say that something else is happening with Shazam for DC Universe and have the whole Shazam family up there. And then all of a sudden The Rock walks out on stage. Whoa! Wouldn't that be cool? Things like that I'm like, oh man, there is a lot of opportunity for some really cool things to happen. Plus, this is San Diego Comic-Con's 50th anniversary. So my first one going, but also what would likely be a massive entertainment or like extravaganza based around that. So feel free to give me some suggestions on things you'd like me to cover. I could go there somewhat, even though I didn't get a media badge or anything, but with the media mindset to maybe go talk to some people and things, or just make sure I see them in person so I can talk to them. I don't think I have a Rock drop in. He's not right now. No. I've got No Attacks. I've got LMFAO. I've got Noob Learn to Play. Oh, I should go back and find, because I know, yeah, Smell What the Rock is Cooking. I know I've got that somewhere. I should have thought about that. Anyhow. But yeah, so I would love to hear from you guys if there's anything I should maybe focus on and see to help enjoy my San Diego Comic-Con experience. With in mind, like I said, I'll bring the hardware. Don't know if I'll do it. Also, a heads up, this week was episode 398 of the show. Next week, as long as Ken's on, excuse me, we'll have episode 399. And so there's likeliness that the next time we're on in full strength together will officially be episode 400 of Show X. With that in mind, I guess there's a discussion is there anything we should try to plan for or do to celebrate that, God, the years that we've been doing the show? And throw it out to you guys. But, all right, with that, it's time for me to end things. That's all I've got to say, and I've got to go run out, catch people elsewhere, so I need to hurry up and get finished up and get on the road. With that, unfortunately, I'm not as planned as Ken is with all the shtick of how to sign us out for the day. But with that, you've been listening to Show X on VtWProductions.com. You can catch us every week as we try something for every Sunday at this time. Also, feel free to check us out on, you can go to the main page at VtWProductions.com, although that's mostly just reposts of what we're doing here. You can follow us on Patreon if you'd like to donate to the show at patreon.com/showx. You can always email us in about what your experience is with the show, with other things in geek, things you'd like us to cover, whatever it is you might be, at showx@vtwproductions.com. You can also jump on and please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell, hit all the things on our YouTube channel so you can catch all of the after effects. That's where we store all of our shows. If you're not watching and participating live on Twitch. If you do, you know we're here. You caught us here. You can also follow me on Twitter at DocDead and Ken at KenReedVTW. Oh, no, that's his Twitch. Sorry. Mine's also DocDead for Twitch. Where is his? His Twitter is GoHex, which, of course, we should all know. I would say those are the main things. So with that, you've been listening to Show X on VtWProduction.com. Please, if you'd like to go jump into the Discord channel afterwards for all of you guys to keep talking, I won't be there, but hey, go play some games. We always encourage people to get together as a community and play after the show. And with that, it is time for me to get out of here with a little bit of...
Goodbye. See you next zombie.